Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to start making some sheet metal fit on this 1970 Chevelle. So first up, I'm going to get the deck lid on, get that fit, and then we'll move on to the front of the car. Okay, I'm going to take this striker plate out of here. I don't want any interference in the latch hitting anything. I want to be able to move it wherever I want, push it down, see how it lines up without the latch being in the way. I lined the bolts up with the old marks. That'll get me close. Let's see how it looks. Okay, it's not too bad. This side has a wider gap than the other side. I've just got the bolts snug. I want to get this tucked up just a little bit more. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, it might not show up too good on the camera, but I've got a pretty good gap right there, enough to get started. Now the next thing I'm seeing, it's pretty tight in here, but then it gets wide as we go down, and then it gets a little bit narrower down here. And being it's had a new quarter panel put on it, that could be in the aftermarket quarter, the way it's stamped. Let's take a look at the other side. Okay, now this has a real wide gap here, and we get down to this corner, and that's about normal. Nothing is going to be perfect on this thing, but I just want to get everything kind of averaged out, even up as much as I can. One thing you have to look at when you set this gap is how the quarter panel and the deck lid end up right here. And it looks pretty good. The deck lid is out just a hair from the quarter panel, but I really can't move it forward any. It's getting pretty tight right now. And that's about the same. This one actually looks pretty good. So I think we're good front to back. Now we just have to even up side to side, see what we can do with it. And then I've got a little bit of a height issue on here, and that may be in the quarter, but I'll see what I can do with that. Okay, I want to move this deck lid over to the left some. I don't want to lose the adjustment to set this gap. So I'm just going to loosen up the bottom bolts on here, leave the top bolts snug. That'll allow that deck lid to slide over a little bit and also maintain that gap on the front. Okay, I should be able to pull this over a little bit, and we just need to snug one side up. Okay, now the gap looks pretty good here. I'm going to snug this side up. The gap is about where it's supposed to be here. That's about as tight as I want to get it right there. It's pretty tight. It's more than double in the center here, but there's nothing I can do about that. Let me show you what I'm working with here. I put the latch back in, it hits nice and center. This gap looks real good here, but that's got a nice gap. We come up to here and it's real wide. Now when we come over to this side, I got a real wide gap here. It gets narrow up there. And here it's about the same as the other side. That's actually a good gap. So I don't think I can do anything with that. It's actually right in this quarter panel, probably the way it's stamped, because from this point is good. It's still wide here, but it's getting tight up there. Same over here. And I do have room to move it this way to close this gap up, but we're getting kind of tight right in here. The deck lid fits good here as far as height-wise. Both sides, the deck lid is high here, so I'm going to see what I can do about that next. The height of the deck lid, here it's just a little bit low. This could come up, but the farther we come down here, this sticks up quite a bit from the quarter panel, but we get down to this end and they're pretty even across the bottom here. I really don't want to lay a block of wood on here and hammer this down and reform this deck lid because it's a nice shape, it's straight. I know that's not the issue. It's in the quarter panels, and I didn't see this car before these panels were put on, so I'm not sure how the original fit. I'm sure it was a lot better than this. And the other side is identical. It's got a good gap across the bumper here. It's all consistent, and it does match up with the quarter panels. Okay, I'm gonna try some here. I'm gonna put a porta-power in there, put a little bit of pressure on that. I don't know if it's gonna make the weather strip too tight, but I'll see if it changes this any. Actually, that makes that real nice. Perfectly even here. It's a little bit off here. I don't think I can move just this without changing everything else, but I'm gonna have to put a little tension on it, try it, let off, see how much I can get that to work up and actually stay. I'm gonna take it up a little bit more before I let it off. It's actually not bad. I'm gonna do a little bit on the other side, see how they both look. A little bit more. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit more on this side. I think some of it stems from not having the correct body line on here. That may throw that peak off because it actually feels good. Bottom up to here and all the way down to about here, just right in this area, both sides. Corner of this deck lid is just a little bit low. I'm gonna move that up. Hopefully it won't change this much, but this needs to come up just a little bit. I'll show you how I do that. I'm just gonna push on it, and you can see it flex while you're doing this. It should be enough. Yep, that looks good. That's nice and flush now all the way around. It didn't change it too much. It's still pretty even all the way down until we get about right here. You get about right here, and then the quarter kind of dives down some, but it feels good back here. And this has got a pretty wide gap here. I'm not happy with that, but I don't think I can do much with it because when we get down here, we're pretty tight. And we get to the other side and we're tight here. It'd be nice to have that opened up a little bit, but as soon as we go about 2-3 inches down, this gap widens up too, and it's real wide. So I think that's about all we're gonna do with it. It's on the weather strip. It fits pretty decent. I think we're gonna have to live with that. I think that's the best this is gonna line up. So I'm gonna start on the front next. I'm gonna start by taking this headlight bezel off. I'm gonna do one side at a time. I'm gonna get the hood supported where it is. I'm not gonna take it off. And then I'll get this fender off and get the door hung. Okay, here's a problem with these old doors. This plate back here for the hinge bolts, you can never get it in the right spot. You'll put the door up there and you'll put the bolt through the hinge and you're always hitting in here and you can't see in there to get it lined up. You can't get your hands in there. I'm gonna show you an old trick to get these hinge bolts started. I took some extra 5/16 bolts, cut the heads off, run them on a grinder, put a little taper on here. So these back two, I'm gonna start those in there. The bottom hinge also. Now I can use these as guide pins. Those bolts will slide into the hinges. I can get my first bolt started in top and bottom and then remove these one at a time and put the regular bolts in there. Just like the deck lid, I want to get rid of this striker. I don't want the latch holding up on anything. I want to be able to shut this door, get everything lined up without any interference. I'll pick the door up a little bit, and it's going to have to go forward. Then I want to check to see what the gap is, the bottom of the door to the rocker. The gap is wider at the bottom of the door here than on the rear. So the front needs to come down. It has to come forward a little bit and be picked up on the back end at the same time. I'm gonna loosen this top hinge, get that to slide forward some, and then I'm gonna just snug them up and one at a time I'm going to tap these hinges down. I want to drop that door a little bit, and I don't want to lose all my adjustment really quick. With these old hinges, try and just go a little at a time. Sometimes if you can just leave them snug and tap them with a hammer and a block of wood to get them to shift around where you want them, works better than trying to loosen them up all at once and then just losing all your adjustments. If you wonder what all that racket is, it's raining pretty good outside. Okay, to get this top hinge to slide forward, I got the back two bolts loosened up. They're just a little bit of tension on them. This one is still tight. I put a jack and a block of wood on the bottom of the door, and I got a little bit of pressure on it. I'm going to loosen this bolt up a little bit, get inside with the block of wood and a hammer, tap on this hinge, get it to slide forward, then snug it up. Okay, I've got a good gap on the bottom of the door now. The door actually sits nice. Lines are pretty close. It's got a tight gap here. Yeah, it's almost touching right here in the center. So let me see what I can do with that. I'm going to take a block of wood and a hammer and try and tap that front hinge forward some. It moved quite a bit forward, and what it does, you can see how it picks this door up from the quarter. Might have gone too far, but I'll loosen up the lower hinge, let that slide forward. That'll drop the back of this door. I slid that lower hinge forward, that dropped this door down. So I've got a real nice gap all the way down here. That looks good. This lines up perfect right here. I've got a good gap from the door to the rocker, but with this aftermarket quarter panel, this line and this line is way off. You come back here where the belt molding goes, it's about perfectly even. It looks like this quarter panel, when it's stamped, this part was down a little bit. So for right now, that looks good. All right, I'm gonna finish snugging up these bolts. I don't want to tighten everything up right now until I play with the fender. I want to put the striker in so I can latch the door. And you know what they say, they don't build cars like they used to. Thank God. So you can see everything I had to do to make this door fit. And that'd be about impossible to do with the fender in place. So the next video, I'm gonna get this fender on, see how that fits, finish up this whole side. So thanks for watching.